Okay. Good morning to everyone. The topic of the day is that Marxism approach in the political science. What we need to understand today's topic is that, and we are going to have discussion on Marxism and neo-Marxism. Okay. I think you might have discussed in the earlier sessions about introduction of political science. Even you have discussed about in relation with other social sciences. And even we had a discussion on the approaches of political science. Even we got to know that traditional approaches in the political science, even modern approaches. And we shall discuss tomorrow system approach. But let me try to, explain. The next unit is that the concept of Marxism or Marxist approach, the neo-Marxist approach, and how it is very important to be a part of this first year political science. All of them we try to understand. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. So one second, I'll just set the screen, then after I'll start the class. Okay. One second. Yeah, today we shall discuss about the concept of the Marxism approach, Marxist approach, how it is very important in the political science. What is the essence of the Marxist approach in the political science? Will understand. Okay, so I think everybody knows Karl Marx. Many of the time you might have listened the name in the social sciences whenever you read the name of the Karl Marx or the way he has made it out slogan, very inspirational slogans to the proletarian community across the world. Okay, Hegelian, Karl Marx, as well as to that his friend Friedrich Engels, and how he promoted a concept of this Marxism. Today we are going to understand it. So the idea of the ideology of this Marxism associated with Karl Marx. He born in the year of 1818 and he died in the year of 1883. In the span of his total life, he worked hard to bringing a change in the society to avoid the disturbances what has been and takes place between proletarian community as well as the bourgeois community, isn't it? So, as a German philosopher, was famous in 19th century, is known as in Marxism, and hence his approach is also named as on the name approach, isn't it? So the Marxist approach is makes us to understand the concept of the society, how the society it's been influenced by the capitalism. Okay, I think you know the meaning of the capitalistic system. It doesn't require to make you to understand the fundamentally what is a capital systems and what is socialism and all of them, isn't it? So, and the Marxism should be a kind of weapon to ruin the culture of this capitalistic system across the world. So, as before the and Marxism, even we had a such concept, which was socialism, isn't it? The early socialist, if you could take it as a name of them, Saint Simon, who was in the 1760 to 1825, he has contributed the developing of socialism in the society. Another thinker in the political science, if you could name as Robert Owen, and contributed since 1771 to 1858. The third, the thinker, if you could name the socialism promoter, Charles Fourier, who also has been in 1772 to 1837, and P.J. Pradhan, 1809 to 1865, and other thinkers also analyzed the subhuman conditions created and disturbed by the capitalistic system at that point of time. However, they were not clear as to what and to do about it, for they suggested an only visionary solution. We need to see the practical conditions of the society at the time of the 18th century, even in the presence of the 19th century. So these, despite of it, whatever they discuss in the past is in the beginning of 18th century, in the half of the 17th century, if you could see, the socialism trend was so different. When you compare to the present socialism, it's quite different. So due to that reason, all the theorists like Charles Fourier, Saint Simon, Robert Owen, P.G. Pradhan, on all of these theories was treated as utopian socialist, because it's no more related to the pragmatic proof. What we are actually seeing, the discrimination in the society between capitalistic and also at the same time and bourgeois community, means landless are the poor people. So in order to make us to understand the reality of the society, Karl Marx has taken the stance to bring a new concept of the ideology, that is Marxism, isn't it? This Marxism concept especially makes us to understand the things which are related to how to ruin the capitalistic society and how to appease poor people in the society to the level of rich. Okay, if you see, all these disturbances, if you could say, across the world, it comes only on the grounds of discrimination, and the discriminations may have a different sort of objective. Discrimination on the grounds of income, that is called rich and poor. Discrimination on the grounds of status, which could be called it as a downtrodden society, or else also it can be called it as an rich or elite society. So, however, there were existence of huge discrimination, isn't it? If you could see in the beginning of 19th century, we had a huge level of criticism. So among them, the foremost and severe criticism in the society, or severe discrimination in the society, is proletarian community and bourgeois community. What is proletarian? Okay, of course, as you have said, black and white also it is there, but it's not related to us. Okay, so if you could see the proletarian, okay, I'll just make you to understand what is the meaning of proletarian. Proletarian means you can consider downtrodden, those who do not have land, okay, those who actually depends on daily labor, those who do not have any sort of rights, they'll be treated as slaves. Okay, so all this downtrodden community was in the part and parcel of this proletarianism. So as Marxism believes into that, to eradication of that system, to appease them at the level of rich, okay, to avoid certain discrimination. In the grounds of that, and he has brought up the concept, that's Marxism. Okay, so this theory, it makes huge changes, a revolutionary things has brought in the society. The first, it's been started to apply, I mean, industries and even in the discriminations in the other side, even in the society, all of them. So first, we try to understand this concept of uh, Marxism in the time of this Marxist Marxist time. If you could take it as his Marxism is also treated in the social sciences as a scientific system because of it as observatory. The entire the Marxist philosophy is based on a scientific system, means it's observatory grounds. What it happened and everything it's been and said, and everything he has taken in pragmatic proofs and pragmatic evidences to makes us to understand, isn't it? Even besides Marx and Engels is a chief exponents to this Marxism, if you could take it as in the 1870s after, we had Lenin also, and also if you take it as in Rosa Luxemburg, who also prevalent in the Russia and Polish activities, and even the Chinese, if you take it as Mao Zedong, who promoted the concept of this Marxism. So all many countries like Russia, China, India, and many countries, and it's been an affected and influenced by this concept of the Marxism. So there are a kinds of Marxism which we need to understand whenever you go understand the concept of this in Marxism. Literally, there is the two kinds of Marxism which we can embrace. I mean, whenever you are having a comprehensive understanding of this Marxism, the first one is a classical Marxism. Okay, what does it mean, classical Marxism? Which holds that private property divides society into the dominants, which is called it an haves and have-nots, which means dominant and dependent, isn't it? So, as if you, according to Marx and Engels, the structure of the society based on this dependent or dominant are two. Like, see, for example, those who do not have a base in the society, let's say, for example, economically treated as low, okay, poor people, there'll be and comes into the purview of this kind of dependent, okay, which means always it depends on other. This dependent category of the society, which you can tell it as an have nots, okay, have nots. And depend dominant categories always they have power, they have rights, they have finance, stability, and everything. So those, I mean, community it will be treated as are named as a dominant. So you can also say it's as an, I mean, elite community, or richest people, or landlords, you can say, okay, jamindars, you can say, if you could comes under this in Andhra, Telangana history. So all these things, and which is, and first he defined the relationship between this and haves and have-nots. How haves are created in the society, how and have-nots have been and in the society, and everything is started. So you make it as a structure. So in order to identifying the structure of the basic Marxism, which it can be called it as a classical Marxism, you know, which, and when I was talking about the first lesson, I told you anything which it can comes under the beginning or Genesis time, which it can be treated as classical. Say, for example, classical thinkers, I have told you the names of classical thinkers in the political science. Those who are at the time of beginning, like say, for example, Genesis time, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and all of them till 12th century, whatever the thing, whatever the thinkers that comes into the political science, they'll be treated as, I mean, classical thinkers. On the grounds of classical thinkers itself, we've seen a traditional approach. Okay, generally to understand the entire, I mean, knowledge of the political science, we need to divide and this political science into the two approaches. One is that classical approach, another one is a traditional approach, another one is a modern approach. In the traditional approach, we understand what is has happened in the first, okay, and the Marxist, I mean, in the modern approach, we will understand the many things which is related to us in the contemporary time, even after the 14th century or 16th century, what it happens, we understand that. I think you're well aware of that. There was a box in the second unit and third unit, which makes you to understand the time, how, I mean, evolutionary process has been takes place in the political science, isn't it? So as these dialectical society, one is have and have not, isn't it? The major intentions of the Marxism is that to, I mean, eradicate this, whatever the differences between the haves and have-nots. Okay, he want to see the society as a uniform society. Whether the society should, associate it with the haves, and otherwise the society should associate it with the have-nots. But he did not give any preference to see the society, which it can be in the form of dialectical, isn't it? Nor, a kind of, haves at the same time, and he wouldn't, want to see the society as like have nots. So you just want to make the society as a completely as a uniformed society. In keeping in view of that, Karl Marx and ideas have, as a part of the Marxism, there are many ideas that's been in he uttered. Out of them, if you see before, Marxism, the existence of socialism has happened. Okay, socialism is a first, concept which promote the concept of this equality in the society. Later, from this Germany point of view, Karl Marx has brought up very, severely to bringing equality into the society, and he has, made it an acronym or made it as a concept that is called Marxism. So Marxism and started. Okay, so the famous, very and importantly, imply the Marxism to stop oppression and exploitation prevailing in a society from moral standpoint. Okay, and he always looked forward for seeking change for the ethical good for a whole humanity, isn't it? Marx and Engels, if you could see these two people, demonstrated that it's impossible to change the society for an inhuman capitalistic society, and to more human socialism and voluntary action. A few individuals are goodwill of sections of society, and according to Karl Marx and Engels, and he worked hard, both of them, they worked hard to change the process of this classical society to the modern society. So in keeping in view of that, he made it as a certain ideas. Among them, the first idea, which I would like to tell you, in your book, it is there, base. Okay, what is base? It is also named as a superstructure. Okay, the base is that, and it also named in the view of this Marx and Engels, it is also called it as a superstructure. Marx and Engels propounded the idea called base and the superstructure with regard to structure of the society. It's related to the society. According to this concept, the structure of any given society consists of two elements. In the base, take it as a one society. There are two things which will be there according to this and Engels and the Marxist approach. One is that, the base are economic society or superstructure of ideology. Culture, politics, states is one. He made it as a two groups of society. One group of the society who, consist of ideology, culture, politics. Another group of the society, and which it can be called it as a hold the economic power, isn't it? So these relationship between two dialectical, according to Marx and Engels, studying a society requires to study of these elements. So we understand how base is created and how many groups are there being a part of the base. We understand in the base or superstructure according to Karl Marx and Engels, isn't it? So superstructure means identifying the society where society has a two groups of people. One is that economically downtrodden, another one economically appeased one. Let's say, for example, politicians are of common people or poor people, isn't it? So in order to identifying the base structure, to identifying the two groups of the society, what they are, that it can be called it as a superstructure or base according to Karl Marx and Engels. Hope you have understand what is a base. In order to understand the process of the Marxism, we need to understand the some of the ideas of Marxist and Engels. One of the ideas was that the first idea is that base or superstructure. Well, I told you, what does it mean base? And that fundamentally, in order to imply the Marxism to the society, in order to practice a Marxistic ideology in the society, we need to understand the society, how it is in the form, whether it is in the form of uniform or whether it is in the form of dialectic. So in order to identifying the society, it is called base or superstructure. What is a superstructure tells us that, division of the society into the two hallways. One is poor haves, one is I mean, one is haves means rich one, another one is in have nots means, I mean, poor people economically less, power wise less, even rights wise, if you take it as the absence of or abstinence of rights. So these kind of a group is a one side that is called as a have not, and the another group is also called it as an haves, which are politicians, if you take it as an, which you can take it as an rich people, industrials and entrepreneurs, and all of them, it comes under the purview of this. So in order to identifying the certain society, which it can be called it as a base or superstructure. Is that clear? Next ideology. Before going to have a complete understanding about Marxism, the first idea which I've said it according to Karl Marx and Engels, that is a base or superstructure. Let's see, and the another idea was class consciousness. Okay, Marxism believes that any given society consists of two classes. Okay, dominant class or no, every society according to their view, it consists of two classes. One is dominant class or haves, which we call, and dependent class, that is have nots. Class consciousness refers to the awareness both for itself and of the social world around, and that a social class possesses and its capacity to act in its own interest, and based on this awareness the class consciousness among the dependent or have not class must be attained before they undertake successful revolution. Marx and Engels firmly believes that contemporary working classes are aware of evils of capitalistic system and the resultant exploitation for the class by the capitalists. What is that an idea he has explained? He was trying to understand the contemporary status of the society. In the status of the society, he has seen after the base structure, he tried to understand some extent what is haves and have not. So he says that entire society, there is no caste and there is no religion, there is no nothing. He has seen the society into the two, I mean, grounds. One is, as I have beginning, I have said it that dependent class, which is called have nots, and another one is that always dominant class, which is, I mean, also named as a rich class or have class. So these always, this class conscious will increase in the society. Say, for example, in the contemporary time, have always dominant on have nots. So I'll give you the best example. Say, for example, any industry, if you take it as an entrepreneur, as an MD of the company, will invest something in the company, isn't it? After that, he recruited the people in order to, I mean, executing the work, okay, in terms of production, in terms of anything which is related to the productive matters. So he confined some wages to the employees, isn't it? Who confined here? The rich people of the company, means MD means rich people. The rich people of the company will, I mean, determine the status of the employee's salary, isn't it? So who is, I mean, which means employing, if it could happens in the right way, that's it doesn't require to in order to say haves and have not. 1 second. Yes. So when company owner determining the packages of every employee, his discretionary plays very important role. Say, for example, if I am the MD of the company, I will decide the wages or salaries of, I mean, the people who comes to me as in working in the company. It's my discretionary. I will not consider their status. I will not consider their anything. When I am trying, when the in the process of determining the packages, I may have a kind of, I'll see as an MD of the company, I'll see more benefits, isn't it? I'll see more benefits. Whenever I'm looking forward for the more benefits, it is essentially I should see employees who can get the less salary, isn't it? So which means I am rich. I comes under, according to Karl Marx, I comes under the purview of halves, isn't it? When I am a half community, so I am my hegemonial, I mean, power I am showing on a people who do not have a much money, who came for a work. So I'm deciding or determining their salary with the less amount or the less package. So the process of determining the less package to the company worker by the rich people, that it comes under the domination, isn't it? He will see, for example, he'll work hard for a 24 hours and 365 days for a company. He's deserving to get the good benefits in the company, isn't it? According to the works and according to the norms of the company, he's an eligible to get the more money, more income, but we gives less income, which means, say for example, if any worker who speak against that, we terminate them. Isn't, I am an MD of the company, I'll terminate them. So which means, in determining his status and giving the salary, and even the a kind of regulation on his behavior, everything is in my hand. So half society will makes it a point to dominating on everyone, isn't it? Dominating. So have not always and receives the hegemonial powers from rich caste, and at the same time poor people always into the status of downtrodden, the rich people always into the status of to dominate on others, isn't it? So these kind of a structure is being identified by the Karl Marx in the society, even in the contemporary time, even after 1870, in the beginning of 19th century. So for example, not only it belongs to that time, but if you could take it as a Karl Marx ideology, still it's been applicable to the present society, isn't it? Can't you see then how the exploitations is being taking place in the society, isn't it? So every company, like see for example Tata too, if you take it as an up to the any company, there is a much level of exploitations is being taking place, isn't it? So as the second ideas of this Karl Marx was that class consciousness. So he explains in each and everything how the consciousness and how the society has been treated under the evils of the capitalistic system. So as a MD system, as a rich system, slightly it's been turned off. Have it become a capitalistic society? Have not it becomes always a proletarian system? Okay, those who always in the status of downtrodden, isn't it? So as this was a class consciousness has been insane in the his books are at the time of his working on the Marxism. The another ideology of the Marxism, what it does actually, means of production. Let me take it as an another and things he has been speaking. What is the means of the productions are? Means of productions are combinations of the means of labor and objects of labor used by workers to make products. The objects of labor include machines, tools, equipments, and infrastructure. Raw materials and materials are directly taken from nature, isn't it? Means of place, for example, say in agriculture, a combination of labor force and objects of production such as land, plough, seeds, fertilizers, and other inputs are needed for production. These are means of agricultural production. Let's say, for example, he speaks about a kind of a production. And another things is we was trying to make us to understand how exploitations has been taking place in the stages of capitalistic system. Let's say, for example, any productive process, it is a combination of labor and object. For example, I say, you take it as an example, like any pen manufacturing industry. If you take the pen manufacturing industry, what Karl Marx and Engels has explains us that manufacturing of pen or manufacturing industries of pen, if you take it as for bringing in a final project, a final product from the company after completion of the making process or manufacturing process, in the beginning of the manufacturing process, there should be a required of two things. It is essentially, one is labor, okay, another one is that raw material. If these two will not be there, there is no point of reason to cause of production. Am I correct? So for example, if you'd like to bring the pen, of course, by seeing this is a kind of a small object, you believe that. For manufacturing of the pen, it takes a lot of time. There is a lot of risk is required, and a lot of intelligence required, a lot of the work and a lot of labor power required, a lot of filtrations required, a lot of things is required finally to dispatch a product to the market from the company. So as in the beginning, what Karl Marx says that any production you would take in the universe, it required two things. One is raw material, another one is a labor. See, labor, without a labor, you can't produce any product. Either it could be a technological work, either it could be a general administrative world, isn't it? See, generally, 100 years ago, if you take it as a production process, the labor was very, very important. Even after 100 years, then still we are living in the world 21st century, where technocrats are there, everything it's been in technologized after the globalization, still the labor power required. Without a labor, we can't do any experiment. Either it could be a small company, either it could be in a big company, whatever it is. So what Karl Marx says that essence of the labor is important for the production process, and raw material also is very important for the product. He said that there is a third, secondary thing is required to the managerial process, isn't it? So he gives much importance in the Marxism. Labor world is very important, isn't it? Those who are working, those who are keeping the sweat and blood in the process of production, it is required, isn't it? So the third ideology which he speaks that means of productions can happen only interventions of the labors and object, isn't it? So as there is no point of reasons we take it as a managerial role or something doesn't require, as it is required in the secondary. The primarily or the fundamentally what it requires in the production process means labor is important. So labor power need and exclusively and to produce or to encourage the production at any cost, isn't it? So as a third ideology says that, see, first one in the chronological order, if you could see, before going to understand the Marxism, he's trying to raise how the society has been exploited. First, he said, what is base? In the base, two societies will be there. One is haves and another one is an have. In the secondary stage, he explains about how class conscious is very important. Like, how this haves is turned out and how have-nots is showing the dominations on them. And the next one, he speaks about that and how productions is causes with this two things. He has given utmost importance to the labor. Even in the past, even in the present, even in the contemporary time, without the labor intervention, there is no point of reason to produce anything. Okay. The third idea was that the Karl Marx says that labor is very important. Labor centralized thing is very, very important in the production process. And again, he explains that mode of production. Okay. And the second and the fourth, idea of this Karl Marx and to understand the Marxism is that it refers mode of production. What is a mode of production? It refers to a specific economic system where means are utilized for a certain dominant section. Mode of productions is combinations of productive forces, social forces, and technical enterprises. The mode of production is a specific combinations of productive forces, including the means of production, such as labor power, tools, equipments, buildings, material, and improved land. And the social and technical relations of the productions, if you could take it as, finally, people and the objects of their work and the relation between the social classes and necessities. So as in the mode of productions, he was trying to explain to that Karl Marx that, see, mode of productions is a combination of productive forces and social forces. See, in the process of course, he says that in the productive process, how labor is very important, isn't it? Similarly, how labor force, there are the different kinds of labor force we see that. Manual labor force we see, technological labor force we see, and even we see that an auxiliary labor force, which it can do general work and technical work also. So as in terms of these two, what actually he says that, however, in the productive forces, social forces or technical forces or enterprises, anything, there is an importance of labor, isn't it? Which you can't avoid at any state, the labor importance in the society. So in keeping in view of that, once again, the mode of productions, in the process of mode of productions also, he exactly explains us, then in order to find such a material or equipment or building and whatever it may be, in order to utilize them, there is an essence of labor, he says that. Okay. So finally, the fifth idea, which you can take it as an example in the Marxism, political economy. Okay. The term political economy originally meant that the study of conditions under which productions was organized in the nation states of capitalistic system. Okay. Political economy, studied mechanism of humanity and organizing material. And I'll make you to understand what is a political economy. That means of production, specifically capital, are manifestos of economic activity and all, and how the economy is essence for the and development of the any production, isn't it? So as in the capitalistic system, mere and uh, the thing is that even he has explains the thing which are related to the capitalism means investment, all things which is required, isn't it? So similarly, where management should be there, he did not, ignore, he did not make it any kind of negligency towards to giving an importance to the manager where he is investing for the productive process. Of course, we can purchase a raw material by the money, we can and provide the salaries by the money, we can also make the anything work into the production process with the help of money itself. So similarly, in the fifth level, he gives much importance to the political economy, isn't it? Next one, exploitation. He explains how actually exploitations is being takes place, isn't it? So as generally what it happens, Karl Marx explained the concept of exploitations. If you could see exploitation in general term, what is the meaning? That misuse of resources, misuse of money, misuse of power, anything which it can comes under the exploitation. Let's see the concept of the exploitation according to Karl Marx, what he said. The entire the segment or class of the society by another, and exploitation is an inherent features of the key element of the capitalism and free market. Okay, exploitation occurs when the owners of the means of productions pay, fever wages and to labor and appropriate all profits, isn't it? See how generally exploitations is being taking place in the contemporary time. He explains that. First, he explains society into the two, and then after that, in importance, he has given what is the name of the two classes. One is the capitalistic class, another one is a proletariat class. After that, how then mode of production slow. How this product, this hegemonial powers which it can use by the haves and have-nots, and he explains that. And the finally explains that with this all this element, with this all knowledge, how exploitations is being taking place, isn't it? The exploitations is taking place that every company always sees that appropriate of their benefits, isn't it? So in order to appropriate of their benefits, what they does actually, first one, always a company owner makes reduction the salaries of the employees or laborers in the company. Always he try to increase the prices of the object in the market, but the increasing of the price, whatever and their extra, it will not be paid to the employee. And who takes work, industry owner will takes a work from the employees for about complete 12 hours or 13 hours, but he would not pay as equal amount of what he has done the work in the company, isn't it? So these are all the things, and where the capitalistic system which used a kind of an exploitation, isn't it? So these exploitation, it becomes in foremost. He says that because of exploitation itself, the society can turned into the society can turn into the two groups. Let's say, for example, a company owner started to investing money for a period of time. He got more production and he become a rich. So all these classes of rich people turned into the capitalism, isn't it? That is called haves. According to views of the Karl Marx, what he says that even this kind of a stature, this kind of a appropriate of the benefits makes an capitalistic system is an encourage. These capitalistic system always is an exploit or misuse the labor power of laborers, and they will not pay proper wages to them, and also they makes them to work for a longer time. So all these things. So if a person who is not getting a proper wages after this work what he has given, then always it depends on a company itself. Say for example, why can't and managers will provide and MDs will provide more salaries to the employees. So if they provide more salaries, there is a point of reason to bringing equality. Say for example, whatever the money comes in the hands of uh, you know um, equally to from bring in the status of equality. Poor always gets the less wages, and still it's deteriorate at the stage of poor and downtrodden. Rich always receives the benefit, he earns the benefits, it becomes a rich. So these misuse or exploitations makes it a society high to the capitalistic system, low to the labor system. Since 100 years to till now, if you could see, labor status is the same. There is no matter, there is no thing which is causes changes much, isn't it? So we have seen a lot of movements, even the labor movements we have seen, and in order to question to the employees, in order to question MDs or entrepreneurs, in order to increase the labor, increase the salaries, increase the bonus, and all of them. So as these kind of hegemonial attitudes of this managers or MDs or entrepreneurs, it makes it and causes of two classes in the society, with the haves and have. So from these points, when this exploitation causes, in order to question them, what actually Karl Marx viewed that, in order to avoid such level of exploitation, he pointed out that he promoted his ideology is a kind of radical ideology, and to fight against the owners of the company. The process of fighting against the modes of the company itself is called as a Marxist. Marxistic belief with that to bringing equality. Say, for example, as you have heard it, one slogan of this Karl Marx, if you could read the Das Kapital, a Communist Manifesto, which is clearly written that how and this labor should and retain the power, how labor should question to the managers on how labor should bring and acquire all the rights from the company, and how labor should acquire the wages as equal to their work. And in this, it is clearly mentioned in the book of Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital, which sees that he has given a slogan. It's clearly written in his publishing books. Workers of the world united, should fight against the entrepreneurs. Even this slogan, workers of the world united, in the sense this this means that if you unite, you can question to the management, isn't it? Where there is no point of united, there is no point of reason to bring any kind of reforms. So he promoted for the first time in the Germany, Karl Marx, after writing a huge article to the papers or weekly or quarterly papers, the people have get motivated. People have get provoked, and the ideology what it has promoted by the Karl Marx and Engels. Then people just started to questions to the jamindars. Like, say, for example, in a Japan, Suzuki, Oyukiyama, all these provinces, if you could see the towns, which is our very famous town right now, where this place is most probably, and it is given a priority to the industrials as well as to the agrarian sector. In this agrarian sector, actually, first this ideology implied by the Friedrich Engels in his land. So he implied, he stopped the exploitation. What does it mean, is stopping of exploitation? Providing more wages, equal wages to the laborers who are working in the companies, isn't it? So as this has become and pointed to the whole world, this strategy, it becomes an universal. Finally, people started a revolt. The movement has come, labor movements we have seen across the world. Every nation has its own, has its own labor movements. So Marxism have influenced much to the society in order to, fight against the rich people, capitalistic society, in order to bringing them equal. So from this point of that, and he quoted and one theory, how to fight against this capitalistic system. He makes it a point, he has developed the theory which is called theory of surplus. And after seeing all this discrimination in the society, and after seeing all kind of this nepotism in the society, he wants to surpass it. He wants to eradicate it. In order to avoid such kind of the class system, such kind of a disturbances in the society, what kind of weapons they must be used? He quoted theory of surplus. What is theory of surplus? And according to the theory of surplus, Karl Marx believes that to stop exploitation, any level of exploitation, either it could be a low level of exploitation, either it could be a higher level of exploitation, any sort of exploitation, he wants to stop it. He quoted that theory of surplus. What is a surplus? Let's take it as a company. This theory easily makes you to understand to avoid all these disturbances or discriminatory things in the society. How? He explained theory of surplus. I'll make you to understand very generally what is the meaning of theory of surplus. Let's take it as an A company is a working on an okay. A company, it's a manufacture company of bread. Let's say, for example, making bread. Okay, you can take it as a bakery or anything. Okay, in a bakery, investor have invested. Okay, I mean capital. Capitalistic society always is in capital. They make capital means invest money. They invested 1,000 rupees for making process of bread in the bakery. Okay, how much they have invested? 1,000 rupees. And after completion of this process, after dispatch this product to the market, the bakery have earned 2,000 rupees, which means 50% they invested, and then immediately and after dispatch to the market, it got double income, which means 1,000 invested, even they got it income as in 1,000. Let's say, for example, 1,000. So in the 1,000, you know, these 1,000 is extra. Okay. What Karl Marx says and suggested in the theory of surplus is that as the capitalist is working for the company, okay, as a labor, for example, every labor, okay, is working for the development of the company or working for the wages grounds. He could be given 200 rupees per day for participating in the making process of the bread. Okay, and Karl Marx says that okay, rest of employees will be there. 2 employees will be there. Let's say 200 rupees. It is, I mean, given as a wages to them. Okay, and 1,000 rupees and another 1,000 rupees to after extracting this and after subtracting this and 1,000 rupees from out of 2,000 remains 1,000 rupees will be there. And out of the 1,000 rupees, 200 will be given to the 3 labors, 2 labor and 1 and capitalist, because he is investing, is also working as a labor. So these 600 had been distributed among the 3 peoples as they are working for day out, isn't it? So what is surplus there? Out of the 1,000, 600 rupees will be there, isn't it? It would be 600 rupees. So this will be called it as a surplus, isn't it? This will be called it as a surplus. So how this surplus should be generally, if it any company who have invested this, all the amount what it's written as a surplus, it will be taken by the investor only, isn't it? Who have initiated the process. So he got 200 rupees as a wages, 1,000 rupees as invested is taken, 1,200 rupees, even as 600 rupees he has taken for an 1,800. Let's say, for example, he took it 1,800. So only 400 rupees is given to the laborers. So which means in order to, acquiring entire the surplus is wrong in the view of Karl Marx. What Karl Marx says that whatever the surplus will be there, and end of the all these in negotiations, all these in subtraction, isn't it? These 600 rupees would be distributed among all the people who have participated in the company, who have participated in the making process of the bread. So in that way, what it happens that it could become a fine, justifications to every member of who are being participated in the making process of the bread, isn't it? So in this way, what it happens, he is getting in wages as working in the day. Similarly, he is also getting an benefit as a surplus. So these surplus, if it can be distributed among the laborers and the investor, the laborers it becomes a rich, as well as the also investors is become a rich. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell? So you can imply the same example to the company, even a crores of turnover and the billions of turnover, whatever it may be, isn't it? You can distribute it among and these surplus to each and everyone. There is a point of reason to cut down these kind of variations in the society. Then finally, there would not be any kind of the haves and have. Finally, the entire society will reach at the level of uniform society, that it could become an equal society. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell? Isn't it? So this is the theory of surplus is being quoted in order to avoid and in order to, in order to eradicate such kind of the demarcations and discrimination in the society between haves and have not. isn't it? So this is also the kind of a weapon which he has used, theory of surplus, to stop exploitation, to stop a kind of variations and discriminations in the society. Is the one aspect of this and Karl Marx ideology, which speaks in the theory of surplus. Another thing which you could makes it an important, and he and decide in order to avoid all kind of disturbances in the society. Even he also, advised to the society doctrine of war. Okay, doctrine of class war. What does it mean, doctrine of class war? Say, for example, in order to achieving the equality in the society, how Karl Marx has suggested to practice of theory of surplus. Similarly, he also suggested to the society to practice of a doctrine of war. Let's say, for example, okay, if you, these are all the things has been mentioned in the Communist Manifesto, the book, a famous book of Karl Marx. Karl Marx has written the book, name of the book is that the Communist Manifesto is the book. Yeah, whatever I said it and everything, it belongs to the, in this book only. From out of this book, Communist Manifesto, he spoke about the thing doctrine of class war. What is a doctrine of class war? Okay, if you see in the history of existing society, in the history of class struggle, okay, if you go back to the early Vedic period and Vedic period also, we found a lot of disturbances between the people, like on the grounds of class, on the grounds of race, on the grounds of rich, on the grounds of area. We could see different colors of struggles and different colors of discriminations which was existence in the past, isn't it? According to Karl Marx, the existence of the classes is connected only with a certain historical struggles that arise out of the development of production. Their class struggle ultimately leads to the, and I'll come, leads to the dictatorship of the proletariat, isn't it? And this dictatorship is itself only the transitions and the abolitions of all classes. Is that clear? So which means in the history of this, and he explained that if you could go back to the 100 and 200 years ago, we could see the society which was under the status of a class struggle. Like, and the society which used to dominate people who were actually low or poor. Low or poor, isn't it? So it's not new to us. Similarly, based on the doctrine of class war, he says that all labors of the world should be united, okay, to make it is a unity, to fight for the justifications of the equality of the society. The Communist Manifesto clearly explains that, all the workers of the world united should fight for a justice, isn't it? What kind of justice? So in order to stop exploitation, isn't it? So he also led the movement to, fought for the development of and their life as well as to bringing society into the equality. In keeping in view of that, if you could take it as the Marxism, the class war struggle, it's been implemented in various countries in order to bring, such as Russia, okay, Rose Luxemburg, okay, the person, pioneer and practitioner of this in Marxism, okay, who brought in equality in the society by implementations of the class struggle, which is against the, rich people in the society. Even in the China, if you take it as an example, Mao Zedong, okay, who is also called it as a modern father of China, okay, he is a modern father of China who worked hard to bring in China into the modernity, isn't it? So he led for the cultural revolution. These cultural revolutions is replica of class doctrine of class struggle, which is quoted and which is, promoted by Karl Marx at the time of 19th century, isn't it? So in this time, what actually Mao Zedong has tried. So he led the class struggle against the, rich people, means landlords. Landlords against the landlords. He made it a cultural revolution, confiscation of the land. He made it, he did, at the same time, he promoted Red Guard Army. Those who are having much land, means more than 10 acres, if someone has a land, they'll be treated as a landlords. Like, say, for example, if you could go back 100 years in the 1940s, before in the China, it was also, of course, later 1950s, it is to be called as a communist country. But before that, it could be called it as a kind of it was under the control of colonialism. It was under the control of some of the landlords. So landlords, in order to bringing, see, if any of rich and poor will be there, this is also comes under the class struggle. As I have said, Karl Marx says that haves and have not. He doesn't want to see the society as in terms of haves and have not. He wants to see the society as an uniform society, whether it should be unity as a haves, whether it should be a unity in terms of have nots, isn't it? So, in keeping in view of that, and Mao Zedong, the practice has been, done in the cultural revolutions after the 1947, as it truly 1950s after, it's been implemented the cultural revolution to killing landlords and by confiscations of the land. So whenever these kind of a class struggle it's been implied to the China, it was a very violent. So even Karl Marx have promoted not only the strategy, which it can be called it as a theory of surplus, but also it's been promoted as a kind of an and violent strategy, isn't it? So this is another kind of an methodology which we can discuss under the Marxistic concept, isn't it? And another one theory of surplus value, which I've said, the value, whatever the surplus value will be there, it should be distributed among each and everyone. And then he also makes it and understand the issue what it has happened through the dialectical materialism. I'll make you to understand what is materialism, what is dialecticalism. Dialectical means two things. Dia means two, like two different opinion or two opinions which goes is the, if any two opinions which goes opposition, okay, each other, or any two opinions which it cannot be treated as a same or uniform, that it can comes under the dialecticalism. So as the dialectical materialism directly it's been applied to the dialectics of the society. And as you have seen that, and Karl Marx have made it as a society into the two ways. One is an haves and have nots, isn't it? So he implied the same concept of dialectical materialism to understand the status of the haves and have not. And in the theory and in the concept of dialectical materialism. Through this dialectical materialism, he discussed the status, how the haves of causes and have not causes. So this also is a kind of an ideology or idea which are promoted as a part of the Karl Marxism, as a part of this Karl Marxism, and in the 18th century, isn't it? So this was all the three components which I've explained to you about in Karl Marx, that university book from the page of 60 to 60 till 60 70 73 page number, and everything what I have taught you, everything it will be there. Tomorrow we shall discuss a new Marxism concept so that you can understand what are the difference between the Marxism and new Marxism at all, isn't it? Hope you understand theory of surplus value as well as dialectical materialism. Similarly, you may have understand the concept of this doctrine of class war. Okay, then I have given an example for the doctrine of class war. China's Mao Zedong as well as Russia's Rose Luxemburg, isn't it? So please go through that and you can understand easily. If you have any sort of doubts, then you can ask me within.
Any questions from your end? Okay, if no questions, and I just someone have texted me in the text box, and then yeah. This is not in Telugu class to make you to understand in the dialectical materialism in the Telugu. Please, you can join similarly. The tomorrow and the same time you will be having in Telugu sessions and other ID. I think you have a schedule, everything. Please look into that. Okay. Any sort of questions from your end? I don't know all this thing related exams and all of them. You can consult your nearest center so that there will be a job who will explain to you everything regarding exam and examination timetable. Okay, fine then. See you on tomorrow's sessions, and bye-bye everyone. Tomorrow We'll see the concept of neo-Marxism tomorrow's class. Thank you, everyone.